You can see a black boat just across from us here. There's another one out there, but the real McCoy's, the black boat with the blue top just in front of us. It's parked along the pier there, just straight ahead. This is what they call a Galway hooker. Now, I know that a hooker can have another meaning worldwide, okay? We won't go down that road. But in Galway here, we call a hooker a sailboat. And the Galway hookers were mainly used to transport turf, T-U-R-F, or peat, P-E-A-T. Same thing a long time ago. Which actually we still use in Ireland as a source of fuel. You'd burn turf the same way as you'd burn coal, but it's much cleaner than coal, maybe.
That must be very comfortable.
And then just in front of us, welcome to County Clare, that big sign there. So at this moment, we're just on the border here with County Galway and County Clare. So lovely viewing. The tide is going out at the moment. It can drop about 5 meters here along the western seaboard. I think some of you might have a very big Irish breakfast this morning. My bus is feeling this rain going up the hill here. You had rashers, sausages, black puddings, extra toast, I think. Well, I certainly have great belief in Volvo power to bring us to the top of the hill here. We're officially in the Burren. The Burren is basically a huge limestone plateau that formed the bottom of the shallow and tropical ocean in Ireland. They reckon about 350 million years ago. The name Burren comes from the Gaelic name Boron, which means a place of stone or a stony ground. And you can see that it makes sense. As you look around here, you can see that it's very rocky and stony. The building, a very good example of the lovely stonework which was in Ireland during that period. You can see how the walls are standing, even though part of the roof has fallen in a long time ago. On Easter Sunday morning, when it's dark, the local people gather at the Abbey, where bonfires are lit around the building, and inside music is played, mainly of a traditional flavour. Coming up on the right here, you have the ruins of another castle. It's called Shannon-Wickenish Castle, and it dates back to the 16th century. It's one of 3 castles, indeed, built by a local family at the time here, the O'Loughlin's. Now, the Martello Towers were actually built in Ireland at the beginning of the 1800s by the English Army or the English military. Now, Ireland then, of course, you have to remember, was very much part of the British Empire, and seemingly during that particular time in history also, a very strong rumour that Napoleon Bonaparte, and indeed his army, was to come to Ireland here. Of course, the English military in Ireland was actually quite wary of that, so they built these round towers, these Martello towers, around the coastline of Ireland. A lot of people are checking out the rock formations here now. And here in the Burren we have what the experts call clens and grikes here. Now, the clens, these are the stone pavements that you can actually see here, for example, on your left-hand side. Again on the right hand side, and the gaps in between are called grikes, G-R-Y-K-E-S. So this type of rock formation, particularly up along the coast, you're going to see a lot of now. I'm going to give you a moment here if you'd like to take some photographs. We're at a place called Ballyreen. The cliffs are not as high as the Cliffs of Moher, but certainly nice to have a look at here. I'll give you 10 minutes here, guys, and just be careful.
Hey, da geht man schon.
and it's called Dunguaire Castle, and it dates back to the 17th century. Most people call it Doolin Castle. You can see it there in the distance.
Beautiful. This is why they call it the Emerald Isle. 40 shades of green. I believe that's Galway Bay. Ahoy, nerds! Excuse me, but I noticed you nerds were sleeping on the bus instead of watching the scenery.
I haven't been tired this entire trip, and today I was.
All I know is me as the oldest person who's wide awake looking at all the scenery,
Can we just?
but my travel companions were
I've
napping.
never been tired this entire time.
I've been sleeping the whole trip.
You've been sleeping the whole trip.
And I have not ever.
All right.
Let's go.
I guess we're going to the caves. Are you guys gonna sleepwalk, or are you actually keep your eyes open?
Guys, so this is our very first stop. Now we call this place Fair Haven, but I'll come back to that name in a minute. Now Aillwee Cave translates into two Irish words of Alley meaning cliff and Wee meaning yellow. So it just translates as the Yellow Cliff Cave. Now back in 1940, a local farmer named Jack O'Began was up on the mountain herding his cattle with his dog when all of a sudden the dog ran off after a rabbit. Now Jack didn't take any notice of it really because his dog was very well trained and the dog usually came back to him until about 20 minutes had passed and there was no sign of the dog. So Jack got a little bit worried. So he headed back home, grabbed a box of matches and a candle and came back up to where he last saw the dog. Now that was the entrance we just came in back there. But Jack didn't walk in like we did. Jack had to crawl on his hands and knees the whole way through the cave. Now one night Jack was down at the local pub and he started talking to a group of students. And they were from the University of Bristol in the UK. Now they were from the Speleology Society. So speleology is just a very fancy word for caving. So them students were big into caving. And these were the very first people to know about the cave in 1973, 33 years after the dog came in after the rabbit. Now we've no idea why Jack didn't tell anybody for 33 years. But some people say he didn't want strangers going up trampling his land or disturbing his cows, while other people say he came up here to hide from his wife. Now, we don't know which one's true, but I'd say you have a fair idea yourself. Now, Jack was a bit of a messer. So, the very next day, he brought the cavers up and they started to explore. Now, they found a number of things. So, we just passed in some bones back there. And then bones are from a European brown bear, and they're between 5,000 and 10,000 years old. So the cave has a constant temperature of 10 degrees, or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's pretty cold in here in the summertime, but then again in the winter it's warmer in here than it is outside. So bears used to come in here and hibernate, and you can see these hollows in the ground. These are called bear pits or bear beds. So the name is pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so as you're aware, we're in the Burren, and the Burren is 400 kilometres squared, and it's a karst limestone region. Now, if you just look up here at this tube, this is called a phreatic tube. Now, it was once a full circle, And caves are formed due to an abandoned river. So the river was gushing from the very back of the cave right out towards the main building. And this happened more than 1 million years ago. So when the last ice age came, it washed everything out of the cave and it just abandoned it, and the river went completely dry. Now if you just look up here on the rocks, you can see these white circles, and they're called fossils. So when the last ice age came, it just compressed all the dead organic matter into the rock. Now you'll see these fossils the whole way throughout the cave, and on every rock you'll just see all these white circles, and again they're the fossils. So rainwater is the slightest little bit acidic. So when it comes to the cracks and joints in the rock, it deposits this mineral. Now the mineral is called calcite. So when the calcite reaches the limestone, it crystallizes into many formations. So for example, they call this one the frozen river. So it just looks like a honeycomb structure or the middle of a crunchy bar. And then over here are the drapes or the curtains. Kind of look like curtains in your sitting room. And then just above that are the praying hands. Oh, so praying hands. Yeah, everyone see that? Okay, so back in 1940, this is as far as Jack McGann got. So he found his dog right down there drinking water. So it was a very happy story in the end. Now if you just look up here at this drink of water, that water is coming from the very top of the mountain. And it's taking 20 minutes for it to come out here. Now from here, it's going down into the shallow pools of water, and it's eventually going out to the fountain outside the Birds of Prey Centre. Now from the Birds of Prey Centre, it's going out into Ballybohan Bay, which is joined up with Galway Bay on the opposite side. Now the reason we know this is just a number of years ago, we put a load of red food dye up on top of the mountain, and the water started to turn red here after 20 minutes. And then the water turned red at the fountain at the Birds of Prey Centre, and then eventually it turned red at Ballybohan Bay. Now you can imagine the shock on people's faces at Ballybohan when they seen the water turn red and hadn't a clue what was going on. But we didn't say anything, and we didn't get in too much trouble for it. Now if you just look up here on the roof, these are called stalactites. But these are true stalactites, and they started off as little tiny straws that we saw back in the bridge. But what happened is that the water couldn't get through because it got either stuck by a big lump of calcite or dirt. So the water went back up towards the ceiling and out over the edge. Now, so that stalagmite there is 8,000 years old, but it's still forming today by that teeny tiny little straw up on top of the roof. So there's a really tiny straw up there that's still feeding it water today. Part of the cave is the only part that actually floods. So it doesn't flood from above, it actually floods from below. So the water will start to rise. Now back to Christmas ago, 2015-2016, the water rose up the crack there on the roof, which was the very top of the 22 steps we came down. So the water completely covered this area, and it took about a day and a half for the water to come back down. Now at the moment,
was there a tour that day?
150 feet of rock above our heads, which is 120 meters. So we're